Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, this podcast is all about different ways that we can find love. And of course, as a dating coach, I work with about 12 to 13 different dating agencies around the world. And each one of them matches their clients up in different ways. Some of them use personality profiles, some of them use psychological testing. So today I'm going to be talking about something that you might have heard of, which is called the Myers Briggs Type Indicator process. Now, the Myers Briggs Type Indicator is an introspective self-report questionnaire indicating different psychological preferences in how people perceive the world and make decisions. Now, the test attempts to assign 4 categories: introversion or extroversion, sensing or intuition, thinking or feeling, judging or perceiving. One letter from each category is taken to produce a 4-letter test result. And what some of these matchmakers do is they then work out the best match for you based on your results from this test. Now, I'm not an expert on this at all, but I've been working and talking a lot to a lovely lady called Michelle Begbie, who is a matchmaker and the founder of Ignite Dating. And Michelle will be telling you and discussing with me today all about why she chooses to use the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator process as a way to match people. So, Michelle, welcome to my podcast.
Hi, James. How are you?
I am very good, thank you, and I'm excited to have you here today. Now, first of all, I briefly summarise what this is, but can you tell the listeners a bit more about this and what you do with it?
Of course. So at Ignite Dating, we interview all our clients, and part of our interview process is that we use the Myers Briggs Personality Profiling, as you talked about. It's about 10 to 15% of the matching process. So although it's valuable, it's not the main way that we match people. We put together, when we speak to our clients, we get to know about them, their hobbies, their interests, their stage of life, what they're looking for in a partner, things that are important, and then we finalise with an MBTI test. Now, the normal MBTI test is around about 90 questions. We have a snapshot of 12, and these are basically how people behave and perform in a day-to-day relationship. And then we use the reading that we get, the 4 letters that you discussed, when matching people with other people. Now, we're not matching people with exactly the same person reading as them. We usually match the 2 middle ones because they're the ones that we have found from our experience how they would behave and how would they interact and how they would perceive parts of the relationship, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does. I can see that. Imagine that an extrovert and an extrovert could have a really good date, and likewise an introvert and an extrovert could have a really good date. So there's a lot of probably scope for your gut instinct as well built into this to see who you think is a good match.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting about the extrovert and introvert bit. We attract quite a few extroverts, as you can imagine, but we also attract a lot of introverts. And when we are putting together the qualities that somebody likes in a person, I would say probably about 70% of introverts want an extrovert. It's really interesting. So, and when I've sort of asked them why, and they said they feel that when they go on a date, it takes the pressure off them, because an extrovert will naturally talk to people and want to communicate and draw them in. And for them on the first date, that makes the date easier for them. So, but then as an extrovert, it can be quite exhausting because you feel you have to put all the work into it. So that bit, I'm kind of a little bit more relaxed on. It's usually the middle 2, which is the I and the S and the F and the T that we focus on.
How about people that maybe might be introverted extroverts or extroverted introverts?
You can get that. Extrovert, people think of extroverts, typically think of the Tom Cruise scenario when he was jumping around on the sofa, throwing his arms around, talking about love. That's the extrovert and introvert bit is actually where we get our rebuild from, our warmth, our validation. So say, for example, I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. And if I'm at home by myself with not speaking to anybody all day, by the evening, I want to go out, I want to reach out, I want to talk to friends. An introvert gets their rebuild from spending time alone. So that can just be chilling out and watching the TV. So I think all of us have got elements of introversion and extroversion, but obviously to different extents. And I think also as we get older, that can slightly change as well. And also our lifestyle can influence that too. So if, for example, you are used to living by yourself, you can be an extrovert, but you still need that introvert time to obviously, because that's what you're used to and that's how your world plays out. I found since becoming a mum, my son's 15, that I have, although I'm still very extrovert, I do need to have some introvert moments, which I never used to need, say 15, 20 years ago.
I can get that. I think people can be introverted and extroverted in different times, but overall, we all like certain things and act in certain behaviours in certain
Definitely.
ways. Now, talk to me about the Myers Briggs test. Who is Myers a person? Is it two people combined? What's the origins behind it?
So it was Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter Isabel Briggs Meyer who acknowledged differences in the personalities of their family, and they basically put together this test. It was last century. Put together this test that was that sort of acknowledged that Myers Briggs doesn't tell the whole story of somebody. It doesn't paint a full picture of who they are. It just gives an insight into their behaviours and how they are. And it doesn't mean we behave like that all the time, if that makes sense. It's just a reflection of who we are. Now, with our clients, we find that I found that we attract pretty much, if you took our whole database, I would say probably 60 or 70% would have a specific Myers Briggs, and that would be ENTJ or INTJ. And they are people who are very strong thinkers, well organised, like to be in control, have a very strong work ethic, which are the J, and the thinkers, logical and analytical, like to make decisions quite quickly. So it's really interesting that of all the people that we work with, such a strong percentage have this very similar Myers-Briggs or very same Myers-Briggs, and they're the type of people who would welcome and want to embrace going to a dating agency.
Is that because these are people that maybe have got successful jobs and they've got the budget for this? Therefore, they are going to be more creative and they're going to be more dedicated and hard working.
I think it is. I also think it's down to the control, in that they're used to having control within every area of their life. And they can sometimes find that going on dating apps or dating naturally, they have no element of control over it. If you go to a matchmaker, you do have control over that. You have control over the type of person that you're meeting. You have control over the personality traits they're looking for you. So I think there's an element of that as well. Yeah, there's also lots of other reasons people reach out to matchmakers. We've got some clients who don't want to be seen online for whatever reason due to their work, or we've got clients who've done online and just said it's not for me, I really don't enjoy it. I've also quite a few clients who've never even touched the internet for dating. They said, I just don't want to try it. I'm scared. I don't know who I'm going to meet. I haven't got time to do it. Lots and lots of different reasons, which I'm sure the matchmakers have told you before. So not everybody's gone online. Some people really embrace what we do. They like the fact there's almost kind of something quite formulaic about our matchmaking. But at the end of the day, matchmaking is also very intuitive. And I have met so many people thought actually they'd be really good together. And if you followed Myers-Briggs or other structured personality profiling, they probably wouldn't be a great match. But when they actually get together, it just really, really gels. And these things are there to help and give us tools as matchmakers to do our job as best as we can. But at the end of the day, I do think a lot of it's down to intuition.
I absolutely agree. It's down to the experience of the matchmaker and getting to know people over a long period of time. I don't think matchmakers necessarily going to give you your perfect match the very first time they arrange a date with you. I think it needs to be calibrated over time. They get to know you, get to know what you're like, get to know your habits. Because quite often the things that we tell matchmakers that we want, we might have an ideal list of things that we think we want. And as time goes on, we realize it's a load of nonsense and we're adapting on that. So absolutely, I think it's just a guide, but it is a useful thing to have, especially if you know what the personality is really like. So talk to me about the personality types that you're going to get as part of this.
So you mean that I deal with as a matchmaker at Ignite, or just in general?
Both.
Both. Okay. So at Ignite, as I said to you, we generally attract ENTJs or INTJs. They're the people who like to have an element of control over what they're doing and how they operate in their day-to-day world. We do attract quite a fair few introverts as well, and that could be for lots of reasons. Again, it's they don't feel confident going online or meeting people naturally. They feel that if they have a support network behind them, it makes the job a little bit easier. They're taking themselves out of their comfort zone as well. So if they're having to go on a date and actually sit there and be quite chatting to communicate with somebody, they can find it quite exhausting by the end of the date. So if they know they're only going to put themselves through it for an hour or 2 hours, they know that the match is going to be a pretty good match anyway because your matchmaker's found them for you. You've been kept in the loop at every part of it anyway. You've seen photographs. You know they should hopefully be an attraction. They will come to us for that reason, because it's making them feel more comfortable about a process they feel really uncomfortable about. Extroverts, they do it because they normally want to meet someone who's quite similar to them. So, for example, I work with quite a few women who have got very, very strong characters. Now, as a very strong charactered woman myself, I know what this can be like. So they're looking for a gentleman who is not going to feel intimidated or isn't going to feel overwhelmed by their strong character. And when I say strong, I'm not talking somebody who is quite bolshy or is rude. I'm talking about somebody who's very confident in how they communicate, they know what they want, they're confident in their world, and they want somebody who's actually going to match that, who's going to be quite robust and have it. Challenging is the wrong word, but we'll have conversations with them and not shy away from them. And we'll feel comfortable as an equal, as a peer, having those conversations rather than it being sort of a mismatch. So again, the women that come to us in that respect are looking for a gentleman that's quite confident, almost alpha in how they are, and who can manage their personality. And again, that's a really good place where Myers-Briggs comes into, because we know that if they have that extroversion, they have that confidence, that outgoingness, they know that they're going to be able to manage them really easily. The fact that we also face-to-face interview people, or by Zoom, obviously, given current conditions, is good as well, because within that, we spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours with our clients. So from that perspective, you get a really good idea of what that person is like. And because I'm quite outgoing, and so are my matchmakers, we all have very similar personality traits, we can really get people to open up to us and dig deep and find out what they're looking for.
And that's an important part of the process. You have to get people to really go within and to declare who they really are, not who they're portraying themselves as, not who they're acting, the character that they're portraying. And I think you mentioned a minute ago, you mentioned how some extroverted women really want an extroverted guy to sort of take control of this as well. And I find a lot of people that come to me for coaching, they say that the guys are being intimidated by them. And they said, why do I intimidate guys? What's going on here? And I think, well, it's just the wrong sort of guys. If you're dating people and you're intimidating them, then that's not going to work in the long run. But going back to the introverts, though, because a lot of people do have anxiety and they are quite introverted when it comes to dating. Maybe in business, they're very extroverted and socially. But when it comes to this, when it actually matters, they can be quite nervous and quite introverted. What advice would you give an introvert who is perhaps going out on a first date?
I have this conversation a lot. When the biggest question that clients ask me and said, how should I be on my date? And I say the same thing every time. I said, just be you. You can't change that, who you are. One thing that's come out from lockdown, which I think has been really interesting, and a lot of our clients, both introvert and extrovert, have said, is that when lockdown eased, we could then start meeting socially distanced walks. So many people really relished and enjoyed that. They said normally first date is in a wine bar or over dinner. So you're literally sat a metre and a half from somebody. You can't move, you're trapped there. You have to talk to them. Actually, if you're out on a walk, you can talk about the scenery outside. You have comfortable silences. And I'm hoping that from COVID-19 and lockdown, I'm hoping that some of the dating landscape is going to change, and that people will relish doing just simple dates again. It's not all about flash restaurants and wine bars. You can just go for a walk. And quite a few of my clients have said, who had their first date out of lockdown, having a social distance walk, actually have that as their first date every time now. So one of my girls she had a first date as soon as lockdown ended, and she had 2 other dates with 2 of the matches, and each time she suggested meeting for a walk and a coffee. And for her, as an introvert, that suited her really, really well. The pressure's off. They've got lots to talk about because there's a senior around them, what's going on in the world, so that you can have comfortable silences and not feeling having to fill them. And one good thing that did come out of lockdown is that her dating landscape and the way she dates has changed, and that is brilliant.
It's changed for many people. I think overall it's a much better place for dating. People are much more serious. They've had a chance to reflect about what they really want, and they're changing the attitudes and changing things. I had a client yesterday, and he is going on lots of dates, and he's probably a bit extroverted, but he cares too much about what people think about him. So what he's been doing, he's been going out to really expensive restaurants and entertaining them. He's been showing off as much as he can, trying to impress them. And of course, it's backfiring because he's trying too hard. He needs to I told him to chill out, do something a bit more, bit less harsh, really, something more gentle. So going for walks, going for picnics. And I believe he's going for a boat ride. He's going to hire a boat on the lakes and take her out there. Just gently go out there and get to know her. Because like you said, it's about going for walks and doing things or activities. There's more things to talk about. You can get closer to them. If you find it hard to talk to people, then there's so much more to do. If you're in a restaurant, there's barriers there. It's really hard. There's noise playing. There's noise music playing. To go somewhere quiet and really focus on that person and make them feel special and feel important.
No, totally.
Now, back to the Myers-Briggs again. How does that differentiate? What's so special about that compared with other matchmaking techniques?
So, the reason that Ignite like using it is purely because the clients that we attract are normally successful. And I don't mean just successful in a corporate world. I mean successful in anything that they do. So obviously they need to have an element of success in order to be able to, in general, to afford a matchmaker's fees. They like the fact there's something almost quite scientific about it, and that's why they like about it. So in that it gives you, we go through the questions, it gives you a reading. When we present profiles to people, we include their first name, their rough geographic location, so London, for example, their job, and we also include their MBTI as well. So the client can openly see what their MBTI score is, and then we can actually go through it with them and explain it to them further if they want to. So it's almost has like a scientific meaning to it, but it's something different to what other matchmakers do as well. And they feel more comfortable with it too. Some people get really overwhelmed by something which is very, very strong psychological based, that really digs deep, where this kind of touches on it, but it's not too intrusive. It's 12 questions.
I think sometimes people do these tests. I know that some online dating sites have long personality profiles to fill in. I believe that eliminates a lot of time wasters, people that aren't going to do that, and it shows that you're more serious. But I also think sometimes people might write things down on these tests because they think they're being judged and they want to put the best score, and they're not entirely honest. And there is some criticism I've heard about tests like this. In fact, with the Myers Briggs, I believe that they tested people, and then within a couple of months' time, they have tested them again. And as many as 50% of people have had different scores and different results by the end of it. What are your thoughts on that?
So we do the Myers Briggs test at the end of the meeting. And the reason we do it then is because people have relaxed into the meeting, and hopefully them wanting to show us what they think they should be rather than that they actually are, hopefully has disappeared by then. I've also been doing this job an awfully long time. So if someone's Myers-Briggs came out...
How long have you been doing it, for those that don't know?
So I've been in matchmaking for nearly 8 years now. I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over my time here. I worked for an excellent agency before, based in the Midlands, which I left at the end of last year to launch Ignite Dating. So I've been in the industry an awfully long time. The reason, just going back to the Myers-Briggs, the reason we do it at the end is because we have then built such a rapport with our client, and we've asked them lots of questions about who they are. You get a really good insight into the person they actually are. So if when the Myers-Briggs comes out at the end, they come out totally different, I would then say, okay, I'm quite interested that you said this on Myers-Briggs. Could you explain to me why that is? So that people do give us the right answers rather than the answers that they think they are, if that makes sense. Equally, as we go through the dating journey with them, we can retake that test at any time, okay? On our website, there is a page on Myers-Briggs. It's got 12 questions on there. You can just go through and do. You can do the Myers-Briggs personality profiling, and then it captures your details on there. So if a client went onto our website and did the Myers-Briggs and then submitted to us, it would automatically update their details in our database. If people are just curious and want to know what their Myers-Briggs is, they can go onto ignitedating.co.uk. They can find the Myers-Briggs page. They can do it. Just enter their email address, and they'll tell them their Myers-Briggs score, and it will also add them to our database. They can get lots of top tips on dating.
That's very clever. I like that. So they have to submit the details to get the results.
Only their email address. We don't need anything else.
Fantastic. Why not? They're embracing something you've done. I think that the Myers-Briggs is a very serious test, because I believe that 88% of Fortune 500 companies in over 115 different countries around there are using this, and it's available in 29 languages, and it's pretty much taken seriously for overall personal development across the world. So it is a very, very serious thing. So I do believe that matches can be made by using it, and it is a good way of testing them. Have you had many successful matches over your career? I know
I've had lots of successful matches over my career. I've had weddings, I've had christenings. I'm almost a professional wedding goer in the summer when the world is normal. So I do have a couple of favourite love stories as well.
Can you give me an example then? Can you give me an example of someone that's found love maybe from of strange circumstances?
Of course I can. So I worked with this chap who was lovely, really, really nice guy, who was in his late 30s. And I'd met this girl who was also a client who was out of his criteria. So she was slightly older than he wanted. I knew if I presented it as a match that he wouldn't go for it. He'd be like, no, she's not really what I'm looking for. She's out of my criteria. He was very specific on what he was looking for. When this is when I was at RSVP. At RSVP, they do events, and I encouraged him to go to a drinks event in London, and I knew that she was going. I saw there was a really lovely girl going. Gave him her name. I said, I think you should have a chat to her. She's lovely. I think you'll really like her. And then went to their wedding a year and a half later.
Wow. It really does work, doesn't it? All it
It does.
is taking action. This is what I tell people. I have run hundreds of singles events over the years, and I was due to actually launch a whole new concept, a whole new thing at the start of lockdown. That's on hold for the time being. But everyone's asking me when the event's going to come back. I think people are ready for this. And I think I'd encourage people to do whatever they can. Do online dating if you want to. Go to a matchmaker if you can afford it. Go to singles events. Ask your friends to help you. Do everything you possibly can. Because only by taking action are you actually going to meet somebody. If you sit at home watching TV and don't do anything, and say, well, I'll do it when I can be bothered, or I do it when I lose 2 stone, or when the summer comes, it's never going to happen, is it? It's just taking action.
It is. And I think also on your dating journey, it's important, like you said, to keep all avenues open. So I have clients that work with me, that work with other agencies as well, that still do online and still go to singles events. It's all about keeping all your doors open, and take up that barbecue invitation to your friend's house, even if you don't really feel like going. Go anyway, because you never know who you're going to meet there. And at the end of the day, if you're wanting love and you're really dedicated to it, just take every single opportunity that you can find and make it happen as quickly as you can.
I completely agree. The more things you're going to do, then the more opportunities will come your way.
Definitely.
Now, obviously, you've been doing this a long time in terms of matchmaking. Is matchmaking right for everybody?
It's a really hard one. A lot of people like the accountability. So when we introduce somebody, there's an intermediary, there's a third person involved. So say, for example, if we did a match, they went on a date and the girl really liked the guy and the guy just wasn't feeling it. If it was an internet date, he could quite easily just block her number, move on, she'll never hear from him again. By going to a matchmaker, we can always approach them and get feedback, which is something we very actively do at Ignite Dating. So if you have a date, we then follow up the call saying, hey, you met one of our clients, how did it go? Do you want to see them again? So there's that part that people really like. Some people don't like that part. They actually just want to get on with it and do it themselves. So they're not the type of people who are going to go to a matchmaker. It's like no one service in the world fits everybody. And it's about finding the right matchmaker for you, and with the right forum for you to find love. When I speak to prospective clients and they're talking about Ignite and they say, I didn't know matchmakers existed, I always say to them, have a look around, because you have to find the right matchmaker that is for you, the one that you can be really open with, that you can be really transparent with, and one that you feel you can connect with and actually work together with as well. And if that means they don't choose my business, that's okay. As long as they choose the right business for them and the right matchmaker for them, that's the most important thing.
I agree with you. There's so many choices out there. People don't know which one to go with and who's good. But you have got to trust your matchmaker, and you've got to embrace that from the start and be open-minded. If you're somebody that's going to reject every single option that comes in front of you, and you're Tinder swiping away left, or away from people, that's not going to work for you. If you're going to join a matchmaker, if you're going to take the time to do tests like Myers Briggs, you're going to have to be really involved and engaged in this from the start. It does take a certain type of person who is a little bit more serious, perhaps, than other people.
No, definitely.
How long does it take to find someone, would you say, the perfect match? 6 months, a year?
It's really, I've had clients who have had, a first match within a week, 10 days, and have said, right, this is the person I want to spend, I want to see where this is going to go. I've had some people I've worked with for 2 years. It really just does depend on, obviously it's the matchmaker's job to make sure they're presenting the right people. There's also other elements in the background as well, sort of where they're at emotionally, where they're at mentally. They might think they're open to wanting a relationship, they maybe not be subconsciously, which is why then we'd recommend they go to see a dating coach or a counsellor who can help them sort of take those blocks away. I've had people start working with me, so I've just, my first match was great, he was lovely, but I've just spent quite a substantial amount of cash, I want to see what else is out there. So there is also, there might be something slightly better out there as well. So, but at Ignite, we try and manage that with our clients, and we say to them, yes, by all means, have another date, but don't always close the gates off, because you never know, your first date actually could have been the best person for you. So yes, meet other people, but maybe still keep having second dates in the background. And we say, when you decide to get to the place where you actually want to be intimate with somebody, that's when you should really shut everything down and just focus on that one person. as crass as it sounds, dating is purely a numbers game, and it sounds awful saying that. However, the more people you meet, the more chance you've got of meeting your one, and that's the outcome that we want.
I agree with you completely. It's a journey, like you said, and you're going to have opportunities. Don't just reject people for the sake of it. If you think there's any chance of a date going to a second or a third or being more, give them another chance. Don't just reject it, because nobody is themselves on a first date. No one even wants to present the true version of themselves on the first date. I think being the best version of you is very true, but we're all trying to impress each other. And that is part of the issue with dating, I think. People don't relax enough into the whole process. We care too much about what people think about us. So what advice would you give somebody who is looking at matchmakers and thinking, well, there's so many choices. Why would I go to Ignite?
So I would say, come to us. We're very personable. We're very honest as a company. If you come to us and what you're looking for, we can't find, we will say we're not the right agency for you. I would say look around, shop around, speak to other agencies, probably speak to 2 or 3 different ones. Don't be totally driven on price, because price doesn't necessarily reflect the quality. I would go, for me, I'd say go with your gut instinct. If you're spending time talking to a matchmaker, so before we meet clients face to face or by Zoom, whichever they're comfortable with, we spend about 15 to 20 minutes talking to them, telling them about our business, how we work, asking them questions about them, asking about nothing too intrusive, so how they've been dating to date, what their history is, why they've come to a matchmaker. So we like to build a rapport initially with our clients to make sure that they think we're going to be the right agency for us, and equally that we're the right agency for them as well, so that it works both way around. And then when we have the interview that we go through, again, that is with no obligation. If you meet our matchmaker and think, actually, you're quite a nice person, but I just don't think I'll be able to open up to you, we're not the right agency for you. Saying that, when people do meet us and go through the interview process, 80% of people do join on the day, and they do want to work with us. But there's no fast track to that. If people speak to us in, March, and then come back in June, July, that's okay as well. You have to take this journey when you're ready to do it.
I agree. And many people are ready now to take this journey. They've had a chance to think about this during lockdown. There's never been a better time to join an agency if you want to do that. So how would somebody find your website?
So just put time into Google, Ignite Dating. We operate in lots of different towns around the UK. So just pop it in there, submit an inquiry, or pick up the phone and call us, and you can speak to one of our team here, one of our matchmakers. They'll have a chat to you, tell you about our service, how we work. Obviously, we're interested in to hear about you and your dating journey, and then we arrange a meeting in a local hotel. So we don't come to your home or anything like that. So the meeting is free, no obligation. We go through the interview process with you, and then we decide together at the end how we're going to move forward.
Fantastic. So if you want to find out more about Ignite, do go to the website and have a bit of fun. Try the Myers Briggs personality profile on there, and they would love to give you your result and see how they can help you. Michelle, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's been great.
Have a good day. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.